Okay, welcome everyone to this live stream. Permit me to introduce myself. My name is Ayomide Oyedele, and I'm an applied cybersecurity researcher. So once again, good day everyone, and thank you for joining me on this live stream. If you are joining or be watching the stream at a later time, you're welcome. So today marks the official launch of an independent applied cybersecurity research initiative that I will be undertaking over the coming months. The project This project focuses on exploring and documenting over more than 70 practical cybersecurity labs through the Labtainers ecosystem developed through the Naval Postgraduate School. Um, I would like to state that this is not simply a lab completion exercise. The objective is to explore practical cybersecurity education, to also document lessons learned, and to also create a technical research artifact, and to examine how hands-on cyber range training can contribute to cybersecurity workforce development and cybersecurity education within Nigerian institutions. So thank you once again for taking the time um, to be part of this launch. And again, it's an independent research initiative, and I will be going over a few things right now. One of which is why exactly am I doing this? So I of course, notice the cybersecurity skill gaps, the skills gap, and of course, also this is something that has been prominent in our cybersecurity workforce, particularly within this West African region. And one challenge that I've also observed is that many cybersecurity learners consume a lot of content, but do not always have access to a structured, practical environment where they can uh, practice what they are or learn by doing, in a safe environment, and also just trying to make more people see the difference between the theoretical and the practical aspect of cybersecurity. That's differentiating between the theory and the practice, right? And of course, you would agree with me that learning cybersecurity is much more fun, when you learn by doing it, right? And of course, the platforms that have been introduced or that I will be introducing to you right now are platforms that help you to gain practical knowledge, practical hands-on knowledge in cybersecurity. Of course, this platform I've made mention, or if I haven't, is known or is called the Labtainer platform. Shortly, I will be sharing my screen to introduce this platform properly to you. However, let me discuss why this platform matters, and of course, what initially attracted me to this platform was how they are very much emphasized on practical learning, and so they don't just or they don't rely simply by giving you theory or theoretical knowledge, or they are an environment where concepts are experienced directly. So again, I'll be showing a particular lab that has been completed by myself during this live stream. So just I indulge you to stay tuned with me. Again, like I said, they are a containerized lab, and this takes or this lifts off the the requirements of you having a sophisticated infrastructure, or a sophisticated, we would say, bare metal, for you to be able to gain hands-on in cybersecurity. Again, you want to also look at an environment which Labtainer serves as the environment where you can learn a variety of topics, ranging from network security to digital forensics, to malware analysis, incident response, and the likes, and so much more. Once again, I will be introducing this platform to you directly on this live stream. Again, it's a contribution that I want to make to Nigerian institutions on seeing how we don't just utilize these platforms, but we can also become creators on this platform. So there are a wide range of labs on this platform. I am going to be, independently taking on over 70 labs from these platforms, where I will be completing these labs, and I'll time to time come up on a live stream like this on LinkedIn, and then do a LinkedIn review of these labs. Okay, so I'm going to be doing one thing now. I'm going to share my screen, and then show to you the whole initiative and um, idea and vision that drives this particular initiative. Right, I'm going to be showing you the purpose of this initiative, the vision behind it. So just give me 1 second while I share with you all these. Okay, so as you can see, this again is an applied cybersecurity research journey, where we're going to be learning and documenting, sharing, strengthening, and also securing. Right. So the idea is exploring over 70 practical cybersecurity labs through the Labtainers ecosystem. Now, the mission is to bridge the gap, in practical cybersecurity instruction among Nigerian lecturers and professionals by documenting, analyzing, and sharing solutions to over again 70 cybersecurity labs. This initiative aims to promote hands-on cybersecurity education, to support development and localization of labs, and to contribute to cybersecurity workforce readiness in Nigeria. So what I'm doing is I'm solving and documenting over 70 hands-on cybersecurity labs, publishing detailed write-ups, the codes, and the resources on GitHub, which of course the link will be available, for those who would like to, go and take a look at of the repositories, and then also learn from it. Also going to be analyzing real-world relevance and cybersecurity concepts, and consolidating insights into a comprehensive research paper. So what you should expect, as an output from this research journey is technical documentation, GitHub research, archive. There will also be cybersecurity analysis. There will be research, finally research publication. So the end goal of this is to, arrive at a research publication, that of course I would, be as much as yourself looking forward to, publishing and seeing how these platforms and cybersecurity educators, learners, and enthusiasts, even at Nigerian institutions, could also contribute to as well. So why this matters is or her that it's going to improve practical cybersecurity education and lab development in Nigeria. We're going to be having custom or localized lab development. Also, it's going to support the Nigerian institutions in localizing and creating labs, and also contributing to the national cybersecurity resilience and talent growth. Once again, this lab is powered by lab. This initiative and of course the entire environment is powered by Labtainers, and of course developed through the Naval Postgraduate School in the United States of America. Again, I do indulge you to work with me and follow through this cybersecurity journey. And of course, I can guarantee you that um, by the end of this lab, we we would together have gained insights on how we can move forward and even make more contributions to these platforms in a localized manner. So what is up next is I'm going to be showing you the first lab, which is the access control list lab. It has been completed by my humble self. However, I would like to show you screenshots from that particular labs, and then just do a walkthrough of what the lab, particularly was or is expecting, or expected, you know, the students, or the lab performers to have done, right? So let me share my screen on that. One second, I'm going to pull that up. Okay, so firstly, the lab that I'll be introducing today, I'm doing an overview on, or review rather, on, is the Linux access control list. So there was an overview of this lab exploring the use of Linux access control list to provide access control over files with more flexibility than the access control offered by traditional Unix file permissions, right? So again, the Laptainers, or of course, as this was provided by the Naval Postgraduate School, expect that um, students already have instruction or independent study in access control policies and access control lists, right? So again, this is the lab manual for the access control list. And again, like I said earlier, the environment for this lab, would be the lab trainer. And if you don't know how to come about this lab, and most likely you might want to, engage with this lab yourself, and you can always reach out to me directly, and then I'll do, a walkthrough, or guide you through the process of, engaging with this lab particularly. There are steps that you have to follow. Like once you have your machine powered on, you are asked to, start up the lab by entering on the command line Labtainer ACL, and then this will pop out, terminals where you can now, go into the lab tasks, right? So in this particular lab, there were three virtual terminals that was created once you log on, um, to the Labtainer platform, which is an Ubuntu system. And then after running the Labtainer ACL, you get the three virtual terminals created, and it's a terminal for, um, you know for three users, where you have Bob, Alice, and Ari, right? And the password for each of these user accounts are listed, in the lab manual, the lab instruction manual. And now your task is that you use the get file access control list command and set file access control list commands to view and to modify the access control list, on those files. Now, you are also, of course, tasked that you can use the dash H option to learn about those commands, right? So when you use the dash H on, on these commands, for example, the get file access control list, dash H, it gives you a list of, options, right, where you can actually understand how to use the get file access control list command, right? Then you are then asked, to review the existing file permissions, in the Alice terminal, the files, right? And the command for listing these files and how to change the directory is also on the PDF lab instruction manual, right? Then the next thing you're being asked to do is to the next thing you're tasked to do is to observe the file permissions of on the accounting.txt. So there's an accounting.txt file, and two directories. So what you would expect is that Alice should be able to view the content of the accounting.txt, right? So again, by running this command, which is the um, get file access control list, right? You are able to see, you're able to see a list of access control on that particular file, which is the accounting.txt. So you're running the get file access control list on accounting.txt, right? So um, once you run that, you get to see the access control of that file, right? Who, that's the users, the group, the others, who access, and what type of access they have. Do they have access to read and write and execute, or do they have access to read and write, or do they have access to read only? So running that command, gives you, you know, an output that shows you the access control of that particular file. In this case, the accounting.txt. Um, so the next thing that you are expected to do on this lab is for you to note how one of the three users has permissions to actually modify that file. That means one of the three users between Bob, Alice, and Ari does have access to write into the accounting.txt. Um, again, by running the get elf access control list on the accounting.txt, you're able to see who has what and what access, you know, um, who has who has on that file, right? So, again, I'm technically trying to explain everything. Again, this is a lab that I've completed, right? So, it could be, a bit technical if this is your first time, interacting with Linux or an Ubuntu system, right? Again, it's a beginner friendly lab, so you could just expect a bit of technicality on solving the lab, right? So once you're able to identify who has access to writing into the accounting.txt, which is located within the shared underscore data directory, then you can, from that terminal, that user's terminal, you can run the echo, um, you know, open quotation, more stuff, close quotation, and then um, the append symbol into that particular text, right? So that's what this particular command here does, right? Then task two is um, for you to, as the bulb user, use the set file access control command to allow Alice to read the shared underscore data bulb as in Bob's directory and then bobstuff.txt. So you as Bob, you are using the set file. So you are more like at your own discretion as Bob, giving access to Alice to read into that file, right? Then, as the Alice user, you go back to confirm that she can actually read, or she now has the ability to read the file. And then, as Harry, you must also confirm that he lacks permission to read the file, right? That's for tax two, and then um, again a subset of tax, or still on tax two, you're also taxed to set a default access control list for a directory. Now, so as Alice, you want to define a default access control list such that whenever Alice creates a new file in the shared data Alice directory, that new file will be readable by Bob, but not by any other users apart from Bob. So Alice is creating a directory that wants to give Bob access to read and not Ari. That's what that is simply saying systematically. So you are creating a file and then you're checking the permissions originally of that file, and then you are then going to set the default directory, that's the Alice directory, to permit Bob to read. So what the lab is expecting you to do is to create the file first, right? Or like directory, right? And then you check the permission of that directory. That's, you're checking the original permission before setting, a default access control list on that. Yeah. And then you, after setting the default access control list on the Alice directory to permit Bob to read newly created files, you now create another file in that same directory and then check its permission. So at this point now, you're going to be seeing a different permission. I'm going to show that screenshot for you so you understand technically what I'm saying. Then you review the default access control list on the Alice directory, and then you confirm the permissions on the newly created file, as desired. And then lastly, which is one of my very, 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 very okay, let me just keep it. And it was actually very interesting because I liked how this particular task, which is task three, how it's actually taxed, me and all of that. So what I did or what you're expected to do here is to revisit the permissions on the accounting.txt. Remember that is within your shared underscore data directory, and then you review that the permissions on that file, and then Bob is unable to read this file, right? So, but he would like to know what the content of this file is. Now, so Bob knows that Alice is a fool for ASCII art, and then he then created. So there's a phone script, right, that you could run. I'm going to show you again the screenshots of these things and explain those things technically. Yeah. So the idea is that you are able to append into that file, or Bob is able to create a new script, or Bob will modify that script in such a way that when Alice or Harry, now when Alice or Harry runs that script, it will make a copy of the accounting.txt file. So here, what is happening here is Bob can't read the content within accounting.txt because he doesn't have the permissions. However, he knows that Alice is a fool for ASCII, meaning that Ali does probably might not be so much inclined to ASCII, or then all might like ASCII art so much and might not really be paying attention to the details within how that is being written, right? So again, Bob then modifies the script in such a way that when Alice or Harry runs it, because they have permission to actually read that file, once they run that script, which is the font script, it now creates a copy of the contents of what is in the accounting.txt file into a new file and into a location that Bob can actually go and then read. So what is happening is you are now later tasked to confirm that when Bob runs that particular font script, it does not provide him access to the data. But then when that particular script is run by Alice, then Bob can have access to the information. Now, the information between Bob getting the access to the file and Bob getting access to the information is what this particular task Trojan horses is all about. So the idea is again the task three is named Trojan horse, and the issue between Trojan horse or the issue on Trojan horses, as a kind of being a deceptive type of fun thing. Yeah. So that's why it's again saying that Harris is kind of a fool for ASCII art. So Harris is deceived without knowing that running that script, even though it kind of gives you see the picture he has, like it's like it's an heart, right? But you don't know that behind it's actually there's a payload, and of course that payload lets Bob eventually sees what is in the file. Okay, now so let's get straight into the screenshots, right? So I would still leave my screen as is, and um, so technically they are not so let's look at the first. So all right, I guess we can do this way. um, okay, so first task is to let me just keep this range this. So the first task let's see if we have that here. Close this. Okay, so let's see which of these has the permission after running the get f. Not this one. Okay, now you can see. So this is the one that has it. So here the command for the getting the file access control list on accounting.txt was run, and you can see the file is accounting.txt. Now here we were able to see that um, the user as Bob wasn't defined any particular permission here. However, Alice does have access to read this file. Alice does have access to read this file, and again, um, Harry has access to read and write. Again, I could explain a lot of things from what you're seeing on your screen. Uh, so um, Alice here did try to echo more stuff into the shared underscore data into the accounting the txt file, right? However, the permission was denied, right? So that already, I mean, speaks volume on you knowing Alice does have access to read, but Harry has access to read and write. So only Harry could actually write into that file, right? Let's look at what this did next. Just showing you a screenshot of, technically everything that I did, particularly on this lab. Um, right. So at this point, where Alice as the user changed directory to Alice, and was here to create a new file. Okay, this was more like a later instruction on the lab. This one as well. This one as well was a later instruction. Okay, now good. As Bob, you can actually see, just like I said earlier, Bob doesn't have, or Bob was denied access to reading the accounting.txt file. So apparently, when he tried to cut into that file, permission was denied. Right now, so that's it. And again, looking at the access control list for the accounting.txt file, you can see that Bob isn't even assigned as a user to have any sort of permission on either reading or writing or even executing, right? Again, so this kind of just shows you, just like I said, when you run either the set file access control list or the get file access control list command with the dash h, and you're able to have a view of all the commands that you can use within the set file access control list, right, as a command as well. Okay. Then okay, let me go back here. Kind of seeing something interesting. Okay, yeah. So these are this was particularly where what happened there was Bob was trying to set or give access to Alice to be able to read into Bob stuff to text. That was actually one of the tasks that we were asked to do there, right? Yeah. So on this one, let's see again. So the screenshots are kind of going, okay. So again, this is the launch of these. So I would definitely expect myself personally to get better at making the presentation of these things to the viewers. But I just expect that while I'm going through all of these things, you kind of understand what I'm trying to explain, right? What I'm trying to explain to you and all of that. Okay. So Harry was trying to cut into Bob's stuff, but again, because Bob had given access to just Alice to be able to read. I mean, before you can write to stuff, you should be able to read at first, right? So, because Bob had already said just Alice to be able to read, yeah. So definitely, Harry couldn't even read into that file as well, right? And then, and then, okay, Harry of course could read into that. I took my time to break down that or to go through a review of the lab instruction manual so that while I'm going through this, because I kind of had it in my head that, the screenshot was or is kind of all over the place. So I intentionally wanted to make that, instruction make sense, that lab manual makes sense. So again, you could go back to the recording because this is going to be available on YouTube as well. I'm streaming live on YouTube as well, so you can go back, and then kind of hear me how I explained the lab instructions or the lab manual. So at this point, I will try to look into the accounting.txt file, but actually he could read it. Yeah, you can see the response there, some numbers. So some numbers is actually what was appended into the accounting.txt file, right? And again, yeah, because this makes sense because yeah, you can see after running the command to get the access control list for accounting.txt, you can see that Ari here can read and write. So that actually makes sense, right? Yeah, that does. And again, yeah, still on the same command or on the same screenshot, you can see right here, Ari himself, because he can read and write, so he can read what is in this accounting TXT and he can also write into it. So at this point, he was able to write into it by using the command echo open quotation, close quotation, more stuff in it, and then appending that into the account. I think you saw these, you must have seen this or heard me explain this during, an overview or a review of the instruction manual, right? And okay, yeah, again, this was another point where, uh, um, okay, now eventually, so now good. I think now we are now at the point where tax 3, where Bob was modifying into, remember where it says Bob has, because Bob cannot read the content in um, in the accounting.txt. Now he is expected to modify the script, which is the ASCII art script, which is what you can see on my screen, right? This is the ASCII. You can see there's like kind of like a dog picture, right, in this. So now this is what now Bob eventually did, right? So he put in this script, or this is what I actually did, right? So I'm just saying Bob, but again, the lab manual kind of tasks you to do this, right? So what he did was, again, this is a bash script, right? So what he did was to write the cat shared, cutting into the shared data, right? Now, accounting.txt, then append what is in this accounts.txt into another file. Now, this is only going to be successful by someone who has access into accounting.txt or a user that has access into accounting.txt. Now, Bob was successfully able to modify this particular script, um, and giving this kind of, I'll call this like a payload, right? Because of course this is not what you see when you run the script. You just see only dog's picture or this art picture, right? But again, behind the scenes, this is what happens, right? So Bob modified this script, right? And then what interestingly, what he did was, because he already had prior access into Alice's directory. Remember where the lab says that Alice should create a default access control list on a directory, so that when she creates new file, Bob can only read into it. So that already kind of elevated Bob's um, privileges. So with that, after Alice ran this particular script, now Bob was able to go into Alice file too. So again, because he specified in this particular script in the ASCII art, he specified that um, whatever is in the accounting.txt should be appended into Alice file 2.txt, right? Again, because Alice does have access to accounting.txt, then that makes it possible for this particular script to run successfully. So once that was done, a new file um, was created, which is the Alice file 2.txt, and then the content within accounting.txt, was appended into that particular file. So I think I have a screenshot here on how that went.
You know what's going about? Huh?
Okay, so can't exactly find the uh, point where the content was now appended into that Alice file. Let me close this and check. Yeah. Okay. So up until the final task, yeah, I've just kind of illustrated how all of that, took place, right? Again, I'm going to be, publishing a GitHub repository where all of these commands and, kind of a more technical analysis on how the lab, went from tax one to the final tax, and all of that will be out there. So, and I think on that, I'm going to also release again everything, um, particularly even some of the errors that I encountered during running this lab. So what was actually in the account.txt was, as you saw, the so let's try to check what was there. It was more numbers, right? So basically, more numbers was what was now appended into the Harris file too. So there was a problem. The cat accounting.txt to actually look at what was in it. So this is actually now for. So this is the content that was in the, yeah, you can see. So Alice Alice did cats into Alice's terminal from Bob's terminal, right? Again, that's something that's possible, right? You can again from Bob's terminal, you can go into Alice's terminal. So I did that. However, during the lab, you have three terminals that popped up, but I kind of just did that to kind of confirm something, right? So what I did here was to cut into Alice file to .txt, and nothing was in it. Yeah, it was the new file that I actually created, right? So then I changed directory and then went back into Bob's I went back into Bob's access control list um, user as a terminal, right? And then here was where I was able to now yeah, after running the bash script from Alice terminal, which is what you can see here. You can see the command I used in running, that was the backslash to run the font script, right? And once I did that, I was able to come back to Bob's terminal and then review the details of what was in the Alice file to the text, and then everything that was in it popped out, and then you could see some numbers, more stuff. Then I added some things. Oh, we are in AppTech. Okay, shout out to AppTech again. Shout out to AppTech, right? So that was a very brilliant question. What did I press? Stop the swap file. Also, all of these things was what I was just playing around and added into that particular file, and then successfully eventually was able to copy all of that from accounting.txt into this file to.txt. Now that actually concludes the whole lab process, right, on that. So again, I mean, if you've joined this session up until this point, I want to say a very few. I want to say a very big thank you to you. So conclusion, um, this particular research initiative is ultimately about learning, and also learning in public, documenting the process, and contributing to the cybersecurity community. And I'm going to be doing this one lab at a time. So I'm currently able to complete this first lab on access control list. The next lab is the ARP, which is the address resolution protocol known as ARP spoofing. And then actually the flyer for this is also ready. Permit me to show this to you. 1 second, just as I did for the first lab, right? Right. So this is the lab two. So we had 1/76 for the first one. So this is the second lab, and then I'm just putting this out, into you out that the next live stream will be about the hack spoof. Again, this is a research journey. It's a journey, right? So we keep doing this until we eventually hit the 76/76 mark, right? So again, thank you all really for joining me on this live stream, and I hope that we could continue these, and then go on and on, and even expect more interesting stuff to come from me. Thank you so much once again. I really do appreciate your time, and then I expect to see you again in the next lab. So bye for now.